3D printed guns dealt a major blow after a judge rules that they pose a, quote, unique danger to the public.
And now 19 states are suing to make sure that these plans stay offline. So where does this case go from here?
Here now to weigh in is attorney with U.S. Law Shield, Emily Taylor. Thank you for joining us this morning. I think one of the big questions, Emily, that a lot of people have is why do we need these?
Well, I don't think the issue is so much why do we need them, but why should we be outraged that the government is trying to prevent us from having them? Because at its core, we're not talking about a gun issue here. We're talking about a free speech issue, and we're talking about the government actively trying to curtail the flow of information to the general public. And I don't care if you're pro-gun, anti-gun, or somewhere in between. Every single American should be on the side of Cody Wilson and his company getting to distribute these blueprints.
You know, the other side of this, they always point to the idea that you can't, yell fire in a crowded movie theater, things like that, where free speech is inhibited for the safety of the public. And that'll be, I'm sure, one of the arguments that's made against these 3D guns and these plans put online. What do you say to that?
Well, in no other circumstance do we ever talk about information being criminalized and prohibited from the public. The government's position here it's as simple as it is stupid. What they're saying at its essence is the distribution of a blueprint is the distribution of a firearm. It's like if I teach you how to grow marijuana in your closet, it's like the government coming after me and saying that that makes me a drug dealer. Or if I post that instruction online, I'm now potentially an international trafficker of narcotics. It's absolutely absurd. So we're not talking about fire in a theater. We're not talking about speech that's inciting violence. We are talking about the flow of information, and to debate in America in 2018 whether or not the government is allowed to stop us from having information is an absurd debate. I can't believe we're having it.
But also in 2018, especially after, gosh, it seems like we're covering school shootings and mass shootings and stuff all the time. I think a lot of people say, the question I asked earlier is do we need these? Why do we need these? But also, can't these blueprints easily get into the hands of the wrong people? Then how do we stop that?
Well, there are laws. Every law that criminalizes possession of firearms by people who shouldn't have them, every law that criminalizes the carrying of firearms into places that are otherwise not allowed, every law that applies to normal firearms applies exactly the same way to these 3D printed guns. The gun control advocates have done an excellent job of controlling this media narrative and making the 3D printed guns into some sort of boogeyman, when ultimately they are probably less dangerous than a traditional firearm because they don't function that well. And you have to, at some point, trust that the laws will be enforced. Murder with a 3D printed firearm is just as illegal as murder with a gun that I can go buy at the store right now. And we just have to simply enforce the laws on the books, and they will be enforced in exactly the same way.
That's interesting. This is something I kind of see both sides on. Interesting perspective, Emily. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
3D gun blueprints will stay offline for now. A federal judge in Seattle temporarily blocking the controversial blueprints until the case is resolved. Self-defense attorney Emily Taylor joined us on Fox & Friends First earlier this morning. She says this is a free speech issue.
Murder with a 3D printed firearm is just as illegal as murder with a gun that I can go buy at the store right now. And we just have to simply enforce the laws on the books.
19 states and Washington, D.C. are suing the State Department after settling with the man who wants to publish